movie begins in a secret lab in Swellview City. Facility soldiers move through the corridors, carrying one of their most important technological devices, a device with the power to alter reality. In the middle of their path, the device is stolen, triggering alarms everywhere. The thief escapes through the lab's hallways, using his combat skills to disable and take down every guard. Suddenly, the young man finds himself surrounded by guards. But before they can strike him with their electric batons, he dodges the blows, causing the guards to hit themselves and each other. As a result, all the agents collapse from electric shocks, allowing the thief to escape until he reaches a door and locks it behind him. At the end of the heist, the fugitive decides to remove his mask, revealing that it's Missy Martin, Henry Danger's #1 fan, who has a big dream of becoming a superhero. Using the reality-altering device, the girl sets up her hacking computers to adjust the device and bring Henry Danger back to life. We learn that a few years ago, Henry was involved in many adventures with the great superhero Captain Man. Together, they brought safety to Swellview City. During their adventures, they were joined by the famous genius Schwoz and Henry's close friends, Jasper and Charlotte. Jasper was so thrilled to be part of it all that he decided to focus more on his training until he mastered the art of fighting, even in his sleep. Eventually, Henry's little sister joined their team, completing the superhero squad in Swellview. One night, a great disaster occurred. Henry decided to sacrifice himself for his city, boarding an explosive blimp toward the mountains to prevent civilian casualties. At that moment, Henry discovered that due to the radioactive material that had fallen on his body, he had gained the ability to generate protective fields. This allowed him to escape the explosion without any harm. From that night, news of the incident spread more and more, and everyone believed the superhero had died in the accident. Years later, Jasper is walking the streets of Dystopia City with Detective Jones, who is questioning him about Henry's whereabouts. Soon after, Piper and Charlotte appear at the scene, saying they're visiting the superheroes. In their conversation, Jasper mentions an imminent confrontation in the area where a fuel truck is expected to be attacked by an entity called Blackout. The young man explains that Blackout plans to destroy all the city's power sources, plunging Dystopia into total darkness. Meanwhile, Henry attends a press conference with many journalists. But just then, the city's electricity begins to fail, signaling Blackout's approach. Jasper puts on glasses that make him fall asleep in an instant, while Schwoz uses one of the street surveillance cameras to create an X-ray vision device. Within seconds, the fuel truck appears at the location. Before they can make any decisions, Blackout emerges in a cloud, throwing the truck driver aside. The villain quickly reveals his true form, prompting Jasper to attack the monster with his flying leap. At the same time, Henry arrives at the scene of the confrontation. When he sees his nemesis, Blackout, he attacks him. Despite the villain's high speed, Henry manages to dodge the attacks, grab his opponent, and throw him against the window of a shop. The monster is dazed, and Henry finds people cheering for him. After the superheroes regroup, they return to the battlefield. Blackout is furious about the attacks he suffered and strikes Henry, knocking him to the ground. When Henry gets back up, he prepares himself to defeat the villain. But before the monster can land another blow, Henry activates his emotional shield, trapping the monster's hand and throwing him toward his building. At the end of the fight, the city's electricity is restored, and Henry Danger returns to his agency building, only to find it completely destroyed. Confused, the hero begins to walk away. Suddenly, the monster reappears and throws him out of the window, causing the hero to fall a great distance to the ground. Elsewhere, Missy finishes setting up the reality-altering device. When she activates it, a large beam hits her room, connecting all the drawings in her notebook to the device. As a result, a portal begins to form around the girl, and she finds Henry descending in front of her, wearing the same suit she had drawn in her notebook. The young man is shocked and tries to understand what's happening. Missy explains that they're in Newtown and that she brought him back to life using the reality-altering device. Upon hearing this, Henry clarifies that he never actually died. He just went to another area to start a new life as an independent superhero. When Missy realizes she risked her life for nothing, she feels frustrated and says that Newtown is incomplete. Newtown is in disarray, with crime constantly increasing. Missy declares her intention to help Henry and explains that she brought him back so they could fight crime together as a real superhero team. Despite this, Henry declines the offer, saying he needs to return to Dystopia as soon as possible. Missy feels disheartened and begins to prepare the device to restore everything to how it was. But at that moment, they hear a woman screaming for help, saying a massive criminal is attacking her. The girl becomes worried and decides to look out the window, realizing it's Coach Craig, a character from her stories. At this moment, Missy discovers that everything she wrote in her notebook might have become real. She urges Henry to run and save the woman. Due to the girl's insistence, the superhero decides to confront the giant man, but when he approaches him, he discovers that his special abilities aren't working, leaving him vulnerable to multiple blows from his opponent. Missy admits she didn't know about the man's radioactive powers, which is why Henry has become an ordinary human again. The girl suggests she could assist Henry in his battles, making them easier to win, but Henry refuses her help again and takes another hit from Craig, forcing him to do push-ups on the ground. Later that night, the superhero continues his exercises against his will. Missy mentions another villain she created who might be approaching them. The girl explains she wrote a story about an electric vampire and warns that if Henry doesn't leave the area quickly, they might end up in their enemy's enemy's hands. Looking at the woman, Henry notices the monster's face closely resembles Piper's. Before they can attack, Missy activates the reality-altering device, allowing them to escape safely. However, they don't realize that the vampire is extremely fast and manage to steal the red crystal from the device before they escaped. As a result, the device doesn't work as expected, causing the two to end up in the middle of a disco. At that moment, Henry spots his sister at the disco, and now he becomes strong when he realizes that Piper is no longer in dystopia. At the moment he is asking his colleague, the young man decides to examine the device and discovers that the girl locked the story mode, which leaves the two completely trapped in the reality created by Missy. In addition, the girl says that the way events unfold makes Henry nothing more than Jasper's assistant. As if all that wasn't frustrating enough, the young man discovers that his friend has a superpower much greater than his own, allowing him to fly freely. Henry is annoyed by everything he sees and decides to leave, but Piper stops him and calls a Frankini to try to entertain her brother. In an attempt to find a way out of this situation, Henry says the team must find Cho so the man can program the device and bring everyone back to reality. Quickly, Henry runs through the disco to find his colleague, who has become an employee there, and after much persistence, the superhero manages to convince his friend, who begins examining the reality-altering device. At that moment, a loud whistle echoes through the place, and Missy says she wrote a story in which Coach Craig appears in the middle of the disco. He is furious about the disturbance caused by the giant man. Frankini yells and forces him to do hundreds of push-ups on stage. When the monster Jasper sees this, he decides to confront him, and Missy tries to convince Henry to wear his suit so he can help the man fight Craig. In seconds, the young man transforms into the superhero suit and is named Tuta Lolita. When he sees his weapon, a giant lollipop, he is very disappointed. Missy, embarrassed, explains that she wrote most of her stories as a child, which is why she always invented crazy events. Despite this, Henry runs toward his friend. Before he can remove the giant mustache from Jasper's face, the superhero confronts the coach. He tries to hit him with his weapon, but the giant lollipop breaks on the first strike. Craig throws his opponent away multiple times, even using a piece of the giant candy to hit his head. Before his friend dies, Jasper rushes toward him and strikes him with his flying leap, which pushes him away from Henry. To finish him off, Jasper throws the coach onto one of the tables in the place and kicks the table, causing the monster to fly away and be defeated once and for all. Henry is annoyed by everything Missy has done to them and decides to stop it all and leave. In the conversation, Cho appears and says that if they manage to retrieve the red crystal from the reality-altering device, they can return to the real world. Immediately after, Frankini appears and says his big show is about to start, asking his friends to head to the party hall. But Henry says they are busy, and the singer refuses to wait for them, asking them to get rid of the strange device they are talking about. Thus, Frankini tries to grab the device, and when they try to stop him, the young man activates the Transfer Now button, which causes the three of them to travel to another world, leaving Cho behind, who resumes his work as usual. After the transfer, the three find themselves in the middle of a cartoon drawing, flying through a colorful and happy sky while riding on Frankini, who has turned into a magical flying cow. Quickly, Missy presses the button again, sending them to another world, Henry's world. When they wake up, the travelers discover they are at the girl's house in Newtown. The singer asks Missy to press the button again so they can return to their disco. But despite knowing the danger in that place, the girl says they might end up in another random story she wrote, which could put them in great danger. Henry is annoyed and decides to wait until the device works properly again. At this moment, the superheroes are surprised by Coach Craig, who is accompanied by a vampire. She says she wrote about villains in many stories and that this time they are here to kidnap her little sister. To calm the situation, Henry tries to talk to Piper. Before the monster attacks his friend, Frankini appears and distracts the woman with sweet talk, taking advantage of her distraction. The superheroes run toward a car to hide from the villains. Suddenly, Piper bites Frankini, who is shocked, but before he can escape, he begins to transform into a hideous vampire. Before they can find a way to escape, the superheroes are surprised by Craig, who rips off the car door and throws the two of them toward the vampires. Piper becomes curious about the device's function and asks the girl to give her the reality-altering device. But Henry thinks quickly and presses the device's button, allowing them to escape safely. After the transfer, the two find themselves in a devastated landscape where the world is in ruins and everyone is fighting to survive. Suddenly, a rock is thrown at Henry, but before it hits him, Jasper appears and protects Henry. When the man gets up, he says the enemies are approaching and asks the two to join a nuclear-powered group searching for remnants of human civilization. At that moment, a group of soldiers appears riding on their slaves, who act like real horses. The men are furious and demand the survivors hand over their drink card, but Jasper says that won't happen, making the invaders even angrier. Realizing the situation is more dangerous than expected, the two decide to explain the situation to the confused survivor. Despite this, Jasper says he will help them find Cho, but first he says they need to defeat the insane invaders. In an attempt to buy time, Missy says she has an unreliable plan, but is confident it will work. After some time, the soldiers prepare their pie in front of the camp. When they discover the camp's doors are finally opening, the invaders quickly rush inside outside and begin searching for those inside. At this moment, Henry and Jasper emerge from behind the trees, striking each soldier. With all the targets distracted, Missy uses the drink hose, spraying the soldiers with a new water blast, causing each one to fly away. Now safe, the survivors await the arrival of the transporter. After hours, a large vehicle arrives at the camp. As Henry approaches, he realizes the driver is Cho, who feels relieved to reunite with his friend. Afterward, the group gathers to examine the technological device, and the scientist explains that due to the red crystal's theft, the device locked itself in story mode. At this moment, Missy says she saw this item in Piper's contract and feels very upset upon realizing everything she caused in her friends' lives. In an attempt to cheer her up, Henry says he understands why she sought his help and assures her they will save all their friends. Cho says all they need to do is returning the crystal so they can go back home and prevent Piper from building an army of vampires to take over the real world. With everything ready, the interdimensional travelers activate the device. After passing through the animated world again, they return to Newtown and encounter a group of villains. When they see Missy's little sister trapped by Piper, who still has the red crystal, the group prepares to fight their enemies. Before the attack begins, the vampire orders her allies to attack the superheroes while she enters the house with the girl. Quickly, Craig uses his whistle to immobilize the group and kicks Henry, sending him flying. Meanwhile, Sho hides to protect the device, and Missy runs to save her sister. When Jasper realizes the girl went to the house alone, he asks his friend to run and save her, saying he'll face the villains to buy time. He grabs a wooden stake from the fence, intending to finish off the vampire. The superhero tries to strike, but Franchini manages to escape his grip, pushing Craig closer to the stake. Jasper then attempts to pierce his enemy again, but the coach stops him and kicks him away. Using his whistle, he immobilizes him. Inside the house, Henry joins Missy. When Piper comes down the stairs, the girl runs toward her but is easily struck, sending her flying. Henry, enraged, attacks the vampire, but she dodges his attacks effortlessly, using her bat cloud to teleport around it. In a surprise move, Piper appears behind Henry, but he grabs her arm and forces her to touch a lamp, electrocuting her. The electricity flows through Henry as well, but he realizes the vampire is still standing and strikes her again. This causes Henry and Piper to crash through debris, leaving the superhero weakened. Before she finishes him off, Missy appears quickly, and the girl throws herself at Piper, who raises her arm, revealing her vampire fangs. Henry is shocked and kicks her away. When he looks at his partner's arm, he asks why she did that. The girl smiles and reveals she grabbed the red crystal, urging him to return home before he dies. Henry, saddened, begins to walk away, seeing Missy slowly transform into a vampire. Outside, Jasper grabs the whistle from Craig and uses its cord to spin his opponent wildly. Realizing his teammate is about to lose, he rushes toward Craig, using ear protectors to knock the giant down and destroy the whistle. At the same time, Jasper chases after Franchini, urging the scientists to prepare the device so they can escape. Suddenly, Henry returns to the street and throws the crystal to Sho, who catches it before Piper. The scientist announces he needs to finalize the transition and asks the superheroes to buy as much time as possible. The two prepare to protect Sho. When Henry sees Missy has turned into a vampire, he becomes even more upset. Quickly, he throws his partner aside and tackles Piper to remove her from the fight, allowing Henry to strike the coach with his blows. The superhero then uses Missy's cloak to distract her. After defeating Craig and Franchini, he traps his partner on the ground. Meanwhile, Jasper destroys the fences around them using Piper's body, enraging her further. She decides to summon her vampire army. Realizing they are surrounded, Henry continues to hold Missy and urges Sho to hurry. The scientist assures them they will transition in seconds. In an attempt to save his closest friend, Jasper stands before the group, preparing to fight them all at once. At that moment, Sho activates the reality-altering device, sending all the adventurers back to their respective worlds. Missy wakes up in her home, relieved. She hugs her sister emotionally. At the disco, someone celebrates his return by starting his next show as if nothing happened. In Dystopia, Henry finds himself in the middle of the city's lake. After swimming to shore, he visits a cafe and finds Jasper sitting alone at a table. The superhero approaches his friend and apologizes for everything that happened over the years. Henry also announces he must leave the city, stating that Dystopia will have a new superhero to protect people. Jasper is pleased but admits he will miss his friend. Suddenly, the electricity starts to flicker, and the young man mentions there's one last issue to resolve. Together, they rush to the city center, confronting Blackout, who uses his radioactive shield. Jasper traps the villain, and with the help of other superheroes, they defeat the monster easily. After the battle, the crowd applauds Henry, who is thrilled to finally have real fans. The next day, the group visits Missy, where Henry stops thieves from robbing her. In the end, the superheroes invite their new friend on another adventure. Henry Danger uses his new flying ability to take his friends to their next journey. Later, Missy and her partner sneak into an enemy building, witnessing numerous drones being destroyed by a mysterious figure. As they approach, Henry recognizes Captain Man, who says he needs his students' help once again. This marks the end of the film. See you in the next recap. Thank you for watching.